go ahead and take a look at what we got. So like drop in chat like 1 to 5 how you feel you did on this challenge. We're at the real one. Cool, cool. 2, 3.5. Awesome. Yeah, again, this one's a little bit, yeah, 1 piece of state. That's the way to do it. Yeah, again, this one's a little bit trickier, I think, than the actual challenges. We used to give this one as the first challenge, and I think it's too much. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Where are we at here? There we go. Cool. Alrighty. So here's that. Bring it over here. Yeah. So here is our challenge. I already brought it down and got it npm installed and started up. Let's see if npm start will work for me. Is that SSL? Cool. All right, we should have blue sky. Great. All right, so we got everything installed. Here's our endpoint here. Can't find module lib encoding. All right, let's try that one more time. I think I did that before I reinstalled the stuff. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. There we go. Yeah, something about the new version of Node or something is not playing nice with stuff. So, whew, good times. So here is all of our data. We've got actor objects with ID, name, health, salary, rating, and catchphrase and photo. Boom. So we want to go ahead and load all of those and display them in a component. So let's, before we talk about the other ones, let's just focus on that. That should be relatively straightforward for y'all. I feel like this is something that we do in all of them. So if this part isn't super comfortable for you yet, definitely holler and let me know what part is catching up, and we will definitely make sure that it isn't, because that's yeah, that's where we're starting. So let's take a look at, why don't I open up the directory instead of my home directory? There we go. Awesome. Yeah, just edit everything. Get rid of that. Can't get rid of that now. So stuff is running. So let's look at our stuff. Our index is rendering our app component. We have a couple things here. We have Bill's cast, which I believe is this blue thing up top. Where's our other local host? 3000? Yeah. This is the cast, and the bottom is going to be where our collection is. And so our deliverable is saying to see those profiles rendered in the Bill collection. In that Bill collection, let's see, we have some styling stuff, and we want to put our collection of cards in here. So cards are going to be looking for an object. It's going to be destructuring that object in our props. And then we're going to, looks like it's doing all of that for us. Cool. So really all we need to do is worry about passing the right object in here. So easy peasy. Let's go back to our app. So like most of them, we're going to be grabbing our data from the API. We're going to be doing a fetch in a use effect. So it only runs the once with the empty square brackets, and we'll be throwing that into state. So let's go ahead and hook that part up first. So start off with our state. How about that? Bills, set bills, I guess. Use state, I'll import. And again, since we're going to be using, it's going to be an array of stuff. like this. We want to start off with an empty array. Prevent drama in the future. We're going to do our use effect for our fetch. So it's going to use effect. It's going to run a little function that does our fetch, and it's only going to run the first time this component renders. So let's go ahead and do that fetch. We're going to fetch from our API, which is here. I'm going to throw that in a constant. It doesn't matter if it's up top or in the function, as long as it's accessible. And I'm going to fetch from the API. I'm going to do the JSON thing. And then I'm going to do something. I'll just console log stuff for now. Format it. Fantastic. Cool. So this should, when the component loads, hit our API, console log it just to see we got the right stuff. So let's take a look. Whoa, all sorts of errors. All right. Effect must not return anything. That's right. Let's wrap this. Wrap that up. Okay, try it again. Much better. So here are our objects. Great. So we're hitting the API. It's only doing it once. We are getting that stuff back. So I'm just going to go ahead, instead of console logging it, I'm going to set our state there. And so now we should be able to look in our components. And there's all our stuff. Great. Cool, cool, cool. And now I just need to map over it in that bill collection. So I'm going to show the bill collection, what we got here. I'm just going to pass it as bills now. So now that component has that passed in as a prop. I'm going to need to destructure that here. That from props. And here's where we're going to map it out. So I'm going to transform that array of objects into a list of components to be shown with map. I'm going to say bill. Each one is going to turn into a bill card. I need to import that too. Cool. So I'll throw that in there. I'm just going to pass it in. I think it's a bill. Let's see. And I need to give it a key, right? And bill, there we go, equals bill. Cool. Let me double check, make sure bill card is taking a bill. Awesome. And look at that. Cool. I guess the image has changed. These used to match up. Cool. So that part should be relatively second nature to you. Hopefully you've done that like a dozen times. The tricky part in here is for the particular application, figuring out what the display thing looks like and what you need to pass to it. Yeah, do it 100 times and then you can do it this fast. Like literally, I think y'all know as much as I do about this part. It's literally just a matter of doing it so many times that it gets boring for you. So you can just kind of like knock it out unconsciously. Yeah, definitely a lot of 30 years showing today. I've only been doing React for like 5 years, so that's 5 or 6 years. But yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, just do it a ton, and it's like playing piano, right? Just do your scales. This is the scales part. This is just doing that thing, because this is going to be the same in pretty much every basic app you're doing like this. You're gonna have a container of stuff. You're gonna do a fetch. You're gonna get some stuff, throw it in that container, map over them. Is there a benefit to mapping in line versus breaking it out? For me, the benefit is readability, because I'm so used to this. I can just read that basically like English, like, hey, I'm turning this list of bills into a bunch of components. If you want to break it out and do a either assign it to a constant or a variable, or write a function that does that map, kind of like the plates in the sushi thing. If that's more readable for you, that is the right way to do it. Whichever way makes more sense and is easier to think about for you, that's the correct way after it works. Rule 1, make it work. Rule 2, make it easy. So yeah, so we could definitely say like const cards equals this whole thing. There we go. And then just throw cards in here like that. I think that'll still work, right? Yeah, cool. Yeah, so whichever way works for you, that the benefit in this case is you being able to look at it and understand about it and change it or fix it if you need to. One little side note here, which I always find, like, I always get delight from, this variable, this constant cards, just has an array of components. Those are the things in the array now. And since we're writing our own components are just functions. So it's an array of functions, which you can totally do. And so we're throwing that array of functions right there. I've done crazy stuff like making like a lookup table of components in an object with keys and using that to like show different components depending on what thing is selected or whatever. Components are literally just things. They're just values. You can put them in an array, you can assign them to variables, you can pass them in and out of functions. Just because they look a little bit different, it's exactly the same as assigning the number 4. It's just a number. It's just a thing. So fun thing to keep in mind for the future. Any questions about this setup stuff before we move on? Everyone feeling pretty good about this part? All right, cool. So the tricky bits then. So part 2, add an individual bill to the cast by clicking on it. So each one of these, we're going to click on it and it should show up here. Select the actor should render the bill's cast component. And this is the important line. It actually gives you a little bit of a clue. Each instance can only be enlisted once. That should say cast, not enlisted. This is from a Robot Army thing. That should say cast. Each instance should be cast once. And the other part, it does not disappear from the collection. So the behavior we're looking for is we click once, it shows up here. We click again, nothing happens because it's already up there. And this stays down here. So what are some strategies people took to do this? After, like, let's say we have the event listener hooked up, like state-wise and data function-wise. What are some things that you tried?
I tried doing like creating a function.
Mm-hmm.
It said like handle casting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I created a constant for that new array with the spread operator.
Yeah.
And then did the set casting. So I did another state.
Yeah. Did that work out for you?
I don't know. I kind of got stuck with maybe the on click, but yeah, I got stuck on the second one.
Yeah, that is definitely a way to do it. And people have done that and totally passed. So that's not wrong if you can get it to work. That is not the way I prefer to do it, because kind of like with the eaten sushi from yesterday, we wouldn't want to create a separate list of sushi that has been eaten, especially since each one can only be thrown in there once. So when you make a separate array, you can get it to work for sure. It's not wrong, but It does require extra work. Like if you click on one and try and add it again, every time you have to check to see if it's already in there because it can only be in once. Or instead of an array, put it in an object so they're unique. So there's a little bit more coding and cognitive overhead there. The way I like to do it is kind of the same way with sushi. We don't have a cast in here, but there's no reason we can't add one. So I would write a function here that's like cast bill, make it a function. And say which one it is. One. And change the state here. So that would be the function that I'm calling. And all I'm going to do is add a cast. So let me do the plumbing first, and then we'll talk about what that looks like. So first step is hooking up our clickies. Yeah. So in each card, oh, look, we have an on-click here. Add code to connect event listener. Let's do that. So, oh, and it's already done the first part for us here. This is a whole function. And so we want this function to let's call it cast bill fill with the bill that we've set in. So when this clicks, it's going to call a function cast bill and pass the bill attached to that card into it, which means that we need to pass that function down as a prop. And because we are in here, we need to do the plumbing of wiring it into each of the props. So we're going to pass it into bill collection from the app, and bill collection needs to pass it into each bill so that each bill can use it when it's clicked. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's in the bill collection. Awesome. I'm just going to console log. Just console log the bill that was done. So let's take a look at what that does. Great. I'm going to click. Hey, there's the one. There's the one. There's that one. Cool. So I've hooked up that event listener to each of the cards. When it is clicked, it's going to call that cast bill function in the card. Which is passed in through props from bill collection here where it's contained, and that needs to get passed in, and that's going to get passed in here in the app, and then we wrote our function here. So this knows which bill we're going to cast. Now we just need to make it go. Any questions about that wiring part? It should also feel relatively comfortable for you, hopefully, at this point. Cool. So now we just need to do that tricky bit of setting that one to true. So again, we could just do like bill cast equals true. And that's not going to do anything because React doesn't care about this random loose object. We need to actually update the state. And we're going to do it very much the same as we did last time with the Eden stuff. So I need to set this. So again, we can't change state. We're always replacing state with a new state. So I'm going to set the new state to an array of the same stuff. Since I want it to be the same array, one-to-one mapping, I want to map that over and just change one thing in it. I need to do a map and say, if it's not the one I'm looking for, just return the thing. Otherwise, make a new little object out of that one, set cast to true, and we're all good. And this is that dense line from the sushi yesterday, a long time ago. I'm going to do my map. I'm just going to say B for the argument here. And so if I just say, B to B, it's going to return the same thing. And I want that to happen if this is not the bill we're casting. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do it. The logic's going to be reversed from last time, I guess. If I'm going to say if b.id is not equal to our bill ID that we're passing in, just return the same one, question mark, same one. Otherwise, we're going to create a new object. And that object is going to have all the stuff from the old one with a spread. Only we're going to be setting cast to true. Cast, there we go. True. And so that should set that one to cast. And this is that same dense setter, mapper, ternary spread kind of thing. But I think maybe the logic this way is a little bit easier to understand than the other way around. We're saying for each one, if it's not the one we're looking for, just return it. Otherwise, make a new object with that cast true in it. That's a good question. I don't know if it's going to be on the code challenge tomorrow, but it is a pattern that you'll see a lot doing React stuff. So, and again, this is like you can, so another way to do this. Let's look at another way to do this, just so we have some options. It is making a new object here. Because we don't want to just update the old object, because that can cause React state to behave poorly in some situations. So let's break this down a little bit and do it a different way so we can kind of understand. Let's do this. We'll say, we'll make a new bills. Equals, and we'll just make it an empty array. And so we can do a for each on the bills. And we can say for each thing in current bills. And yeah, we can just do an if then, right? We can say if this ID is not the same as the one we're looking for, then we're going to just return the same thing to this for each. Else, turn, and we don't even need the else there, right? It's not going to get there. We can just return, and this is where we'd be creating a new object. So that's an empty object, a new empty object. We're going to spread that one into it and say cast is true. And then we can just say set bills, new bills. See what formatter does to this. Great. So these do the same thing. This is just kind of blown out a bit. We're creating a new array. We're going through the old array. We're looking at each one and saying, I don't want to return it. That's not a map. I want to say new bills push B. And then I do need else. Loop. Yeah. So we are starting with an empty array, and then we're going through the old array and pushing either the same object or creating a new one with cast true. And then once we're done with that, then we push that new array, or then we assign that array to our state. So these do the same thing. One is just more compact. For me, at least, this one, and probably for someone who does not have as much experience as me, takes some reading for each of them. This one feels like it has a lot more moving pieces to me. And it doesn't need to be that blown out too, right? You could change this to a, you could do new bills equals bills.map. And here's where you could do your return, right? And then set bills to new bills. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. You could do a for with numbers loop. You could do Could probably use, you could use reduce for sure. Tons of ways to do it. Whichever way works for you, whichever way is understandable for you, whichever way you can debug easier, that is the right way to do it. That said, you will see this a lot in other people's code. So when you see that more functional language, just do the same thing. Just expand it, blow it apart, and see if you can figure out what it does there. So that's a lot of talk. Let's see if it actually works. I'm going to go back to the component inspector here, and let's look at our state here. So I'm looking at our first one here. That's all that. So in theory, if I didn't make any mistakes, which is questionable, we should have a cast in there. Hey, it did. 50-50, right? Cool. So now we have denoted it as cast. Any questions before we move on to this second part of this one? All right. So now we're going to take our new information and do something with it. So now we're able to look at that list of bills and know that some of them are cast. So I'm going to go ahead, just for the sake of space, I'm going to pull this one out. I'm going to that here. I'm just going to collapse it. No, okay. All right. Cool. So we need to kind of do the same thing that we did in the bill collection. And we're going to have to make a little tweak to the way we're doing stuff in there. And we'll talk about it. So we're going to go top down instead of bottom up this time. So bills cast. Let's just start off easy. Let's just pass in the whole array for now, just so we can see it work. And so then in here, we need to do the same kind of thing where we're mapping over that list. We need to take that list. We need to map over it. So here's going to be our list of stuff. I'm going to do that. We're going to change it into a bill card. Hey, important, great. We're going to give the key. And we're going to tell it who's who. And close that up. And now bill card is already set up to accept that. So in theory, I think we should get a full list of the guys up there. Yeah, we do. Great. We are going to have to make some tweaks, but we'll get there when we get there. Right now, we need to figure out how to only send the cast bills in there. Any ideas? You could maybe use a ternary inside. Yeah. Filter. Yeah, exactly. So again, kind of thinking about the encapsulation, we want bills cast to, we want to take a list of bills and we want to show those bills. We don't want it to worry about anything inside. We're saying whatever you send us, we're displaying. So if we get a full list, we're displaying a full list. So that means we want to send just the ones we want to it here. And a filter is perfect. We're taking a list of things and returning a subset of that, which is anywhere from 0 to the full list, right? So we want to say filter. And I'm going to say, so filter is going to include anything this returns true for. Bill cast, I think, will do it. And so now the only things that show up there are the ones that we click on. Hey. And because we're just setting a true false variable here, right? If we click on it again, nothing happens because it's already true. But if I click on a new one, and they stay down here. So this bottom one doesn't change as we are, as we're adding stuff. So that's sweet. I think that satisfies that. Oh, the actor disappears. Wait, no, remove. Okay, yeah, does not disappear. That's what I was looking at. They should be numbered, really. Cool. So that satisfies the second one. Let's ask some questions about how that works, if there are any. Feeling pretty good so far. All right. So here's where we get to like use some cool React stuff. Yeah, it's not necessarily more intuitive because no coding is intuitive, right? But it's definitely easier to work with in the long run. Like you can do it, make it work, but then we're going to be adding some more functionality to this. I think the more functionality you add to it, the more that's going to strain under its own weight, and that's a like part of, I think part of becoming like an intermediate to experienced coder is because when you're starting off, everything's hard because you're learning it, you're building new muscles, and it's hard to tell if you're doing something in a good way. There's no good or bad, but in a in a easy way, right? Because everything feels hard. But once you get some of those reps in, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I can do this part pretty easily. That's when like you start to develop that instinct for like, oh, I'm doing this thing and it feels harder than it should feel. Maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe there's a easier rule 2 way to do it. And that's difficult to, I think that's difficult to develop and listen to because you're so used to struggling with everything. And so when some things feel easy and some things feel harder than they should be, it's easy to be like, oh, coding's just hard. It's going to be hard. I'm just going to leave it like that. It takes a little bit of extra work to develop that sense of when. And it's no one's perfect at it for sure, not me. So yeah. Cool. Let's look at our next deliverable. So we want to remove an actor from that top part. When we click on it, it goes away. So we know that if we set something to false, I think, can we edit stuff I think we can edit stuff in the components here. Maybe if we just say cast false. Oh yeah, look at this. So if we say false for that, that should disappear. Fantastic. So all we need to do is set those to false when we get clicked up here. Problem, look, yeah, this is the problem here, right? We're not passing that cast bill function in. And, in fact, bill card is always calling cast bill. And we're using that card in multiple places. So I'm going to change it just a little bit because I want to make the card, because the card is just like a thing. The card's responsibility is I'm going to display the information that you send me here, and I'm going to do something when you click me. It shouldn't really care what that thing is. So I'm going to call it handle click instead. And that means I need to go and change it in a collection. So I'm going to change this to handle click, but I'm still going to pass cast bill into it because that's what it's doing. And so this allows me to look at this code and say, okay, the card displays stuff and it does stuff when you click on it. I can pass whatever I want here. I could, pass in console log here, right? And then when I click on that, ooh, is this going to work? Let's reload. Click on this. Yeah, that's just going to console log when I click on it. So any function I pass into this is what it's going to do when I click. For the ones on the bottom, I want it to cast bill. For the cast up here, I want it to do something different. I want it to remove bill, which I have not written yet. So I should pass that in, which means I'm going to pass in a different function to the bill cast than I am from the bill collection. Here. And this is going to be remove bill. And I'm just going to write a separate function here. So it's going to be the same kind of thing. I'm going to be doing basically the same thing, only instead of setting it to true, I'm going to set it to false, just like we did in our inspector. And since this is just one easily copyable line, I'm going to do that. I could just as easy copy all, that looks so messy. Copy all that up and just change that true to false too. So these two functions are doing essentially the same thing, just one is setting it to true and one is setting it to false. I'm passing that remove function into the cast collection component, or that cast display component. That is passing that into the card as handle click. And again, the card does not give a shit what's happening outside of it. It just knows you're going to send me an object. I'm going to display that object. You're going to send me a function. When you click me, I'm going to run that function with that object. It doesn't care if it's removing it or casting it or sending an email or sending out a predator drone or whatever. Like, it's just doing its job, man. So, and that encapsulation, it would be a lot harder to do it without that encapsulation. We'd either have to like make a new component that does the exact same thing, or we'd have to do some like weird logic in here and pass some like where it is and all that stuff. Way too much work. We're just gonna do what you tell me, and then here I'm gonna tell it to remove it. Here I'm gonna tell it to add it, and it's all good. It's a lot of big talk. Let's see if it works. One, we know that adds. That's a different one. Great. So moment of truth. If we click this guy, will he go away? Yes. It works. Super great. Okay, cool. Sweet. And that leverages that extra work we did up top or that extra sort of cognitive load we did to make this work that way instead of using two. Otherwise, we would have had to go through and do some other way with our separate list and make sure it was in there before a lot of mess. Cool. Questions about how that works? Yeah. So the bill collection is taking in, we're passing our cast bill function into that. And the bill collection is doing a map, creating all those bill cards and passing that in as handle click to each one. And the bill card is just like, I'm going to handle the click when you click me, whatever you pass me. Is that showing you what you're looking for? Awesome. I have a problem with this though. What's that? What problem do you think I might have with this? I got a bad feeling about this code I just wrote. And it works. Rule 1, right? Cool. Before we even get to the delete button, I think. What do we know about these two functions here? They are almost exactly the same, except for true and false. That feels super gross to me. It's not a big deal here, but if these were even a little bit more complex, and we want to change the behavior, like, oh, we want to like make this equals instead of not equals or whatever, we would have to change it in multiple places. Does remove bill only get triggered for the cards in Bill's cast? Cast bill only gets triggered for cards in Bill's collection. Yeah, because that's what those are the functions that we're sending in to each of those. And then they just send that into the card. Yeah. So this works totally fine. This would pass. There's not any functional problems with that. That's rule 1 passes. Rule 2, when I see code like this, and sometimes it's not this obvious, I'll code for weeks on something and be like, oh, those 3 functions should be 1 function because they're doing the same thing. They just take a different argument. So I'm going to make a new function here. What's it going to call? I'm going to call it, you know what? I'm not going to make a new function. I'm going to use the same function here. I'm going to call it cast bill. I'm going to get rid of this. And all I'm going to do is have it take an optional second argument, cast. And I'm going to say it defaults to true. So now I can just call cast bill, and if I don't pass it something, it's going to cast them. And this is shorthand for that, right? So if I call cast bill here, that's going to do what we want. It's going to cast, it's going to be true. It's going to cast him. If I pass in false as the second argument, it's going to set that to false. Great. I think the only thing I need to change here then, since we don't have remove bill anymore, we're going to call cast bill, but we need to pass it an argument. So instead of just passing that function here, we just need to make our own little function. It's going to take bill, and it's going to call cast bill with bill and false. So now this function is the function that's being passed to each card. So each card is going to call this function, which is going to pass it a bill. That's going to call cast bill and set it to false. And so we can get rid of that altogether. And just to show off how pretty it is, I'm going to get rid of this stuff. And look at that. So pretty. So we've taken 2 almost identical functions and made them into 1 function. And this is a super trivial case of that, but when things get more complicated, you're going to really want to refactor that way. And since we're refactoring, we want to check that everything is working exactly the same as it did before we refactored. Refactoring is just for us. The JavaScript doesn't care what it looks like. It's going to make the code work either way. Cool. And boom, boom, boom. Great. Refactor worked. Cool. So again, not necessary. If it works, it works. This is if you were to work on this in the future and you came back to this a week later and you were like, oh God, this would be for your benefit, the programmer's benefit. Cool. Any questions about any of that before we move on to the last one? Anything that you don't understand even a little bit? Everyone's super solid? Or just too confused to know what to ask? Cool. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the last bit, and then we will do a rundown and Q&A at the end. So last bit, discharge a Bill Murray from the agency forever, clicking the blue button that says fire. Is there a blue button that says fire? Oh, there are. Look at that. Cool. So we want to remove it both from bill collection and bills cast. So basically that just means we want to remove it from the state altogether. Cool. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's write the function top down, wire it up, and then see what it looks like. So I'm just gonna say function discharge bill. I'm gonna call it delete bill. I like that better. I'm gonna pass a bill, and we're gonna console log, just so I know it is getting called. Cool. So I've got this function. I need to pass this where? Is that button on both places? Yeah, it is. So do I need to pass it both places? That seems a bit messy. I don't like that very much. I think I'm going to have to because both components need it. This is this is the problem with keeping your data state in here. So I'm going to call delete bill, oops, and yeah, typing the same thing more than once or twice is a message. I think just the way this is set up, we got to do that. Okay, then in Bill's cast, we need to pass it down, loop. And in Bill's collection, we need to pass it down, loop. And then Bill card, we need to get it up here. And then we need to call it where? Down here, look at that. Cool, so we want to do the same kind of thing as we're doing with the handle click. When that button that says fire is clicked, we're going to call this function here that calls delete bill with the current bill. So bill's not defined. What did I do? Catch it in both bills, cast as props before passing it build. Yeah, that's what that error is from. You're totally right. Bam. Error goes away. Yeah, and that's the, so sidebar. This is the problem with keeping data as state, because you're going to need to pass it around. And if if for some reason we're like, oh, the collection needs to have another container around it to display an ad or something, I don't know. We need to wire that up and pass it down again. Or if we moved it into a sidebar or something, we need to unwire this and then wire it back up onto that other component. That's a huge pain in the ass. So keeping data in state works until you get 2 or 3 deep. Then it's a lot of work. And that's where state management stuff comes in, like Redux or Recoil or MobX. And we will talk about that next week. I don't even think it's in the curriculum, but if you're going to build an actual React app, highly recommend sidebar over. Let's see if it works. Cool. So I've wired up this button to when I click it, it's going to call that delete bill. Right now, delete bill is just console logging. Hey, oh, we have a couple. Well, is this going to be a problem in the future? I don't know yet. I don't think so, but we'll find out. Actually, it's a problem now. It's a problem now because when we click this, we don't want it to be added, but it's going to be removed anyway. So I'm going to let it sit, and if we need to fix it, we'll fix it. Cool. So now this is just going to be changing state again. So we know we're going to remove this from both. And since we have this wired up this way, it's using the one thing. So we just need to remove it from our bills altogether. We don't care if it's cast or not, because it's going to be out of here. So we're going to our set bills. And so we're going to use our current array. So we want to remove the one that we've gotten from that array. Since we can't just do a slice or something, because we can't change state, we need to replace state. We need to replace it with a new copy. So we need to replace the current one with a copy that is missing one, the one that we want, if it's there. What do we use to return a subset of an array? Our favorite filter, yeah. And so basically we want to say, so it's going to return an array that has everything that this is true for. And so we want to include all the ones that aren't being deleted. So we want to say if this one ID does not equal that ID, I think that'll do it. So it's just going to say set the state to the same array minus, well, the same array with all the ones that don't match the one we're deleting. So we're just taking out that one. I feel like that'll do it. Let's find out. I'm gonna put one up there first. Put one up there first. So I'm gonna fire a captain here. Should remove it from both. Great, that button works. Oh, did it? Nope. Oh, oh no! Why isn't it removing from that one? What happened? Try that one more time. Adding captain there, removing it. Didn't do it. Okay, let's inspect. I was like 90% sure that was going to work. So here's our app. Captain Bill was number 1. Cast false. Catchphrase I'm not. Oh no, what happened? Yeah, this is our problem that we had. He's still there. And when we click on that, it's actually doing the main thing of it. I think we'd have the same problem if we clicked the fire button on this one. It's going to add it up there. So we don't really know if it's working or not. We just know that that fire button's not working because that event is being caught by the card before it even hits the button, right? If we look at our card, here's our first handle click, this div. And so this div is basically the whole contents. So any click event is going to hit that one first. And, or no, that's not true. It's going to zoop, right. So here's what's going to happen. It seems like that's what's going to happen. But the actual thing that happens is we've got our on click on the card and we've got our on click on the button. So we've got our 2 layers like this, card and button. Our cursor is trying to click the button. So it goes through here and then through here, hits the button, and the button's like, aha, I'm the lowest thing that can catch an event. So I'm going to catch that event. So it does this thing. It is actually deleting it. I can prove it. I bet. Or I might be lying. Let's see. Am I lying? There's that. Deleting. Deleting. It's not deleted. Why isn't it deleted? Yeah. So it is deleting it first. But the way events work is it's gonna bubble back up. And so it's gonna do that one, it's gonna do its thing, it's gonna delete it, and then it's gonna bubble back up and hit that second event listener and say, cool, now I'm gonna do this handle click, which is adding it back in. So we need to do one thing. And this is stop that event from, what's the magic word? Propagating, yeah. We're gonna stop it right in its tracks. So we are gonna catch that event and we're gonna say event stop propagation, blam. So now it's gonna hit that. It's gonna say, cool, I'm not gonna bubble back up. I'm just gonna do my thing. And then it's gonna delete. And then it's gonna be like, I'm out. Again, could be lying. Let's see. Add some bills here. Cool. Let's get rid of captain. Hey, deleted from both. Let's get rid of this guy down here. Boom. And get rid of the ones that aren't there. Awesome. Get rid of that double. Great. Get rid of you. Awesome. Whew. So it is actually deleting. It's just not doing the second thing anymore. So yeah. Vanilla JavaScript stuff still matters. Still matters. And that is, I believe, our last deliverable. It is. Cool. And again, we're not doing any backend stuff here. So no posts or deletes or anything like that. And that is it. And yeah, under an hour. Easy. Not easy at all. Cool. Let's have some questions. Anything about any of this process you'd like to talk more about?
I had a quick question about only using state once. Can you just kind of go over why you don't set a new state for like the bills cast
Like, yeah.
section.
So yeah, we totally could do. So we can say cast bills. Is that, yeah, cast bills? Or what do we call it? Oh gosh, naming is hard. Cool. Set cast bills. So this is going to be a array of all the ones that are up top, right? So we have two arrays. We have one for the bottom and one for the top. And then here we would just pass in, I'm just going to comment this out, copy it. Instead of doing this filter here, we'll just pass in cast bills. Cast bills. Cool. So now, oops. So now that list is what's being displayed. Looks a little bit simpler, reads nicer than this ugly filter thing, right? Beautiful. So what do we need to do to make that work? So let's start from the end and go forward. When we delete it, we need to delete it from both arrays. So that's double the work right there. And not double the work in as JavaScript has to do twice as much work. Double work as we need to write both of those. And if there's a bug or we want to change the behavior, we need to change both of those the same way. And since we don't ever make mistakes, it's never going to have a problem there. So we would have to remove it, and we do a remove by doing what? Doing like a get the index of the one that has the matching one, and then if there is an index of it, then do a slice, I guess, or splice, one of those, and change that array, and then set bills to that new spliced array. Feels like a little bit more work. And then for casting, that's a little bit less work, but not all that much less, because we would take the bill, we would add it to the new one, and then set the state. But we can only add it once, so we need to go through there and make sure it's not already in there. And if it's not in there, then push it in. And maybe just in case that, just to like double check, deleting, we want to make sure we're deleting all of them in case there are more than one snuck in. It's just a lot more work, I think, programming and thinking wise. And you have two parallel things to keep in sync. So if for some reason one of them gets like the say we have functionality to change the salary of a bill, we need to make sure to set that on the objects on both of them, and so on. So not that it can't be done, totally can be done. People have definitely passed the code challenge doing it that way. And if it works, that is our ultimate goal. But in a working application, we want to do a little bit of thinking up front to save ourselves a lot of it thinking later on. And I know that because I've done it a whole bunch and made my life miserable. So don't do what I did, and just think about it beforehand. But that said, like the only way to learn to do it this way is by doing the extra work, really realizing that you did extra work, going back to do the extra work to undo your extra work, and do that 100 times. And then eventually be like, oh, maybe I should do it a different way first. So if you do it the other way, that is totally cool. As long as it works, I'm good with it. Yeah, it's just another thing you get via practice that is like on your path from junior developer to intermediate developer, really. Cool, but that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Other questions? Anything else you want to talk about?
Go over the stop obligation.
The which part?
The pop-in part for the click events. Propagate.
Oh yeah. Cool. So we have two click events on this card. We have one for the whole card, which is, you can kind of think of it as the top layer, the transparency on top. And then we have a click event on this button, which is underneath that. So when you, I wish I had a third hand. Here's the 2 layers. When you click our buttons here, it detects the click and keep on the lowest one possible. So it's going to end the detection at our button there. It's going to do the thing on that click and then bubble up and get that. So what we want to do is instead say, don't bubble up, just do the lowest level thing. Or, if we wanted, if there was multiple ones and we want to stop halfway up, we could stop there too. So that would be, so the bubbling is what makes it come back up. The capturing is the part when it's going down. Let's start over. When you have layers, the capturing is, it's when it's going down, it's going to capture on the lowest layer. And then it's going to bubble back up unless you stop it. I think it's one of the harder, because like it's introduced kind of early, I think, when you're still kind of like learning everything. And it's like even experienced developers have, it takes some time to sink in. So it's definitely, again, one of those things that you're going to have trouble with, and you're going to have mysterious problems and you don't know why. And it's just tracing those problems down and being like, oh, it's bubbling. Great. And yeah, so hopefully by showing more examples of me failing at that, you can learn a little bit faster. We'll see. Did that got what you got? That explains it. Awesome.
Yeah. So like,
yeah,
it triggers first, and then the on click above it triggered right after, but the e.stop propagate stop that from happening.
Yeah. So the first one actually does delete it, but then the second one adds it back in.
Okay.
Whoops. Awesome. Other questions? What else? Cool. I actually love this this one and the other one I was built off of. Again, like the Sushi one, it exercises a lot. I think it's a little bit much for a Go challenge, although people did pass it a lot. Yeah, so this one is a great one to play with. It just exercises all the bits and pieces. So we'll see how tomorrow goes. Again, tomorrow, don't stress. It's the first of 2. If you make it the first time, great. You don't have to do the second one. Otherwise, you got plenty of shots. So cool. I think I'm okay stopping there. Any last call before we wrap up? Cool. How are folks feeling 1 to 5? Understanding wise. super valid.
Yeah, I feel like I did the same approach that Lauren was talking about with having like 2 states, and I got things to work minus the event.prevent propagate thing. That's where I
yeah
know what was going on. I was like, I got this far.
Yeah, if it works.
So as long as if it works, and like having 2 states is still okay, like
totally,
then that's okay.
Yeah, that's not like literally to pass the Go challenge, just make it work. If it's super ugly, we can talk about it later, but yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, 2.5 is the totally good score right now. So halfway there. Yeah, so just just review, and then we'll see how tomorrow goes, and then we'll review some more. Cool. I'll post this recording in all the usual places. Sorry you couldn't join us, Chris. And gosh, again, we'll see you for stand down in like 20 minutes, give or take. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all in a little bit. Bye.